Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Japan once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel quite a few times before. So I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years. They are still a relatively new addition to the Japanese beer scene, but they've built up a very, very good reputation for themselves in that short lifetime. If people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're most definitely best known for their different kinds of IPAs, notably the New England Hazies, but they have been diversifying quite a bit in recent times and doing lots and lots of different styles, some sour beers and imperial stouts and lagers and stuff like that too. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases here in Hong Kong. It's a style that I have had from this brewery before, one that I know they can do quite well, but one that I haven't had from them in quite a wee while in fact. And this style seems to also be enjoying a little bit of a kind of renaissance, if you like, a renewed popularity, something like that. So yeah, I'm quite happy about that, and it's quite cool to encounter this style from this particular brewery again. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we're going to head over to Japan, like I said. We are going to go to Shizuoka Prefecture, which is a bit to the kind of southwestish of Tokyo, right next to Mount Fuji, of course, and we're going to go to the city of Mochimune, which means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful West Coast Brewing. So this particular beer is called Galaxywatcher. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is a West Coast Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this is one of a couple of beers that I picked up from City Super in Chimshachui, here on the Kowloon side in Hong Kong. And yeah, they seem to get a very good selection, and a relatively regular selection of things from West Coast Brewing. So I need to keep an eye on that and see what we can find going forward. But these guys are one of my favourite Japanese breweries, and certainly one of the most highly rated Japanese breweries at the moment as well. So yeah, my first West Coast IPA from these guys in quite a wee while. I think most of the IPAs I've tried from them have been hazies, but the very first beer I reviewed from these guys was a West Coast triple IPA, which was very, very good actually. But let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. Really curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from West Coast Brewing before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the very near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one and the Japanese playlist, along with a number of other things. That's being added to fairly regularly since I'm now based out here in Asia, and I love my Japanese beers of course, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about West Coast Brewing once again. So, West Coast Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Mochimune in Shizuoka Prefecture in Japan, right next to Mount Fuji. And the brewery was founded back in 2019 by Derek Baston, who's originally from Seattle in Washington State in the Pacific Northwest over in the US. And in a previous life, he was an architect. So Derek originally came to Shizuoka back in 2003, and he would often visit different breweries during his trips home to the US. And he said that he'd always been inspired by the craftsmanship that went into the West Coast American beers, and he wanted to bring some of that back to Japan with him, because he said that there weren't many breweries really doing this at the time. So apparently the idea to found his own brewery can be traced back to 2014, when he designed the Shizuoka distillery for a company called Gaia Flow, and they have a few different outlets across Japan actually. But this was his first real look inside the brewing and distillery distilling world, and it inspired him to visit other breweries and distilleries and talk to those inside the industry. And apparently doing this made the whole process of starting his own brewery a lot less daunting, so he decided to go for it. So as a kind of preparatory step, he founded a bar in Shizuoka called 12 to test the water and see if the types of beer that he wanted to brew would be a hit, and it turned out that they would be. It quickly became very clear that if he brewed some American style beers in this area, people would enjoy them. So they found a premises in an abandoned tuna processing factory in the Mochimune marina, and they renovated it and converted it into a brewery. And this brewery is equipped with a 10 BBL system, which is about 1600 litres per brew. They've got 10, they started off with 10 fermentation vessels, I should say, and 2 bright beer tanks, and they produce between 12 to 20,000 litres of beer per month. And there are 3 brewers in the team from what I understand. There's Satoshi Niwa, who is from Japan, and he's the brewing manager. Then there's Cedric Mel, who is from France, and also Grant Scholler, who is from the US. But you might notice from the labels here, they've got some quite interesting mascots on them. So the brewery's mascot is the Hop Dude, who appears on pretty much all of the beer artwork. You'll find him in one form or another on every beer label, and this artwork is designed by Simon Henshaw, who if I remember correctly is from Manchester in England. But over the next couple of years, or over the first few years, this brewery leaned mainly toward brewing different kinds of IPAs, and they made a lot of fame for themselves, I guess you could say, when it came to the New England Hazies. But in more recent times, they've been focusing on a barrel program and developing different sour beers and imperial stouts and things like this. They've also been opening a number of bars and tap rooms. This includes the Bao, which is a gyoza restaurant, 12, which is the izakaya, number 3, which is a bottle shop. These can all be found in Shizuoka City. They've also got the Oasis, which is a bar in Hamamatsu, and also Umeda 1, which is a bar, and the Dark Lab in Osaka as well. I've been to Umeda 1, still need to go and check out the Dark Lab, and yeah, I'm sure they'll open more and more of those as time goes on. But as of September 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 390 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and like I said to you, they are known mainly for their New England Hazy IPAs, but they are very capable when it comes to other styles of beer as well. So yeah, I think that's everything I can really tell you about West Coast Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So this one is a West Coast IPA, as I mentioned earlier on. It comes in at 8% ABV, the Galaxywatcher. But one of the things I thought that was a bit unusual about this, with it being called Galaxywatcher, is that it doesn't actually have Galaxy hops in it. But this one is hopped with Citra, Mosaic and Simcoe, all of which come from the US. Citra is 14% alpha acid, and it's going to give you quite a bit of grapefruit and mango in a West Coast IPA. The Mosaic is a very much 14% alpha acid again, but it gives you a very kind of tangerine orangey kind of note and a wee bit of earthiness in there. And Simcoe is 12% alpha acid, and it leans toward a very oily kind of passion fruity type character. But yeah, this one is a half-litre can, 500 millilitres. Plain silver top on it there. This one cost me 65 Hong Kong dollars, which is about £6.50 sterling, somewhere in the region of, what's that, about 1400 Japanese yen. Something like that. What would it be? About €7, maybe $8 American, something like that. So yeah, Japanese beer in Asia is of course more expensive because they don't produce that much of their own barley. They've got to import pretty much everything to make it. But yeah, £6.50 for an 8% West Coast double IPA, for me, that's a pretty good deal. You'd pay more than that going to some pubs and things. But yeah, 8% West Coast double IPA, this one from a brewery I know are very good with this style. Another thing I find a bit ironic is that Mochimune and Shizuoka Prefecture is actually on the east coast of Japan, and these guys are known for their New England IPAs. New England, of course, is on the east coast of the US. But yeah, few things, that's kind of few random things about this one. I did actually open up the Untappd page about this one because this is a West Coast Brewing 5th anniversary beer apparently, and it also has a little bit of a descriptor to it. So the little blurb that they have on the Untappd page here is, it's all fun and games until you become mortal enemies with your best friend from grade school. Am I right? Like so many other fantastic fables, ours has the protagonist and antagonist as schoolmates, spending their formative years together, gazing at the stars and taking turns watching each other play Secret of Mana until 2 a.m. While our would-be hot foes were oblivious to their fate, when we cooked up Galaxywatcher, we knew exactly what we were getting into. Souped up Star Watcher on performance-enhancing substances, freaking Barry Bond's Star Watcher, basically. And yes, just like the not-so-subtle proper noun in the last sentence, this elixir be hitting dingers. Fresh cut grass and woody aromatics, melon and cantaloupe notes, subtle hints of citrus and grapefruit, floral notes of geranium with grape, berry and stone fruit flavours. This West Coast Double IPA has it all, a play on our OG and favourite beer of all time, just in time for our 5th anniversary. So yeah, happy 5th anniversary of course to West Coast Brewing. I've got a couple of the big 5th anniversary beers back in Osaka that I'll review for you at Christmas time, or maybe in October, we'll need to see. But yeah, I did quite like that. So happy 5th anniversary to West Coast Brewing. But let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. I'm very, very curious about this. I can't remember actually when the last time I had a West Coast IPA from West Coast Brewing was. But yeah, this should be quite nice. Let me just turn that around so it looks nice for the camera and so that my OCD is happy. So I think at this point we've maybe got about 75 or 80% of the beer out and into the glass, and it looks great. So before the head disappears, you can see that it's poured with just under a finger of quite a soapy, I would say, kind of fawn cream coloured head there. You can see some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, but it certainly gets more kind of soapy the further up the head that you go. You can see the colour of this one is quite golden, in fact. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few different things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker coloured beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well, but you don't often have to care about that when it comes to different kinds of IPAs. So yeah, the West Coast IPA for me, it can lean two different ways. It can be more kind of bready and biscuity, such as the Russian River Pliny the Elder, or it can be more oily and caramelly, such as the Sierra Nevada Torpedo. Those are just my two reference points. You guys might have different ones for yourself. But going by the fact that this one is a little bit more kind of golden, I would say that it's probably going to be more along the bready, biscuity end of the spectrum. But yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. It's got a little bit of natural haze to it, which is always good. I do think that beers are a little bit better unfiltered and you get more flavour out of them. But yeah, it does look very, very nice, this one, and pretty much in line with what we've seen from the West Coast IPA style before. So nothing unusual about the appearance of this one. I think we can move on and have a little look at the aroma, and I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to give us in that particular regard. So let's do it. Let's take a wee look at the aroma of this one. Oh, right. It's a little bit more kind of mild-mannered, this one, in all honesty. So I'm wondering if potentially this is going to be a more modern take on the West Coast IPA with less bitterness and less dankness and things like that. Because it's about 2 months old, maybe 2.5 months old, this beer. So it's not at its absolute prime freshness, we should say that. And that's always the thing when you get beers from the supermarket. City Super is, of course, like a fancy supermarket, but still. This beer is about 2.5 months old at the time of filming. But it still smells really, really nice, this one. It's more kind of sweet and oily rather than anything else, but the green component of the beer isn't overly pungent, which you might expect from a West Coast IPA. But yeah, you've got oily fruit in there, you've got a nice bready backbone, and you do have a little bit of that green component. So yeah, let's just break the aroma of the beer down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth before we try it. So yeah, the backbone of the beer, you've got a little bit of that kind of fresh wholemeal brown bready bread crust coming out of this one, which is great. So you can smell that in there. There's a little touch of woodiness, of course. So a little touch of woody character. Yeah, little touch of woody character, little touch of kind of crackery note in there as well. Yeah, little touch of woodiness, little touch of cracker. But then yeah, I do actually get quite a little bit of bread crusty, like kind of mix of brown bread and bread crusty character out of this one, which is really interesting. I'd be curious to see what the malt base of this one is, because you know in Europe they like to use crystal malts for West Coast IPAs, but of course in America it tends to be more the different kinds of two-row malt, and just the way the oiliness that's the oiliness of the bready character in this beer that's coming out to me. I think this one's been brewed with American malts, but it does have a wee bit of Christmas too, so I think it's mainly American malts, potentially a little bit of European malt in there, but lots of sweet kind of wholemeal brown bready character in the base there. You do get quite a little bit of like fresher, fluffy or white bready character in there, some toasty brown sugar of course as well, sweet oily caramel, a little bit of like Werther's Original butter candy butterscotch, but not too much. More McVitie's Digestive Biscuit. Yeah, sweet caramel McVitie's Digestive Biscuit. As I say, I do like how all of that pieces together in this one. Yeah, aroma wise, it was aroma wise, the malty side of things is really nice in this one, quite classic. And I will say, for a more bready and biscuity leaning West Coast IPA, it actually gets sweeter and sweeter and more oily the more that you smell of it. So that's an interesting point to make about this one for sure. Yeah, is there anything else we can really say about the malty side of this one? I'm not really sure. But on the yeasty side of things, at the back of the nose, there is more of a kind of brown bready and crackery yeasty character that comes out of this. But yeah, I think that we've covered everything we really need to say about that malty and yeasty side of the beer. So let's move on to the green component then. So when it comes to hopping IPAs, there are a few different things that you can do. You have three types of hoppings, of course. You've got your early addition hopping, which takes place usually within the first hour of the wort boil. That gives you mainly bitterness and a deeper, danker kind of green component in terms of flavour and aroma. You've got late addition hopping, which takes place usually within the last half hour of the wort boil, gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma, and more of a bright green component, I would say. Then you've got dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, and that's all about flavour and aroma. And it gives you, it gives you again a very bright green component, I would say. West Coast IPAs tend to use all three types of hopping, whereas New England IPAs rely on late addition and dry hopping, which is why West Coast IPAs are more deeper, dank and bitter, and New England IPAs are kind of softer and juicy. That said, there are quite a few takes on the West Coast IPA which use less early addition hopping and they come across as softer and more juicy, and I'm wondering if this beer is going to be an example of that, because it isn't so deep and dank. And normally, if a West Coast IPA is like 2 months old or so, as this one is, you would get even more of a pronounced dankness out of it. This one just doesn't show that much. So maybe this is a more modern take on the West Coast IPA, if we can call it that, or a more New England hopped version of a West Coast IPA. We'll need to see. But regardless, you do get kind of what you expect out of this one. There's a little touch of earthiness in there from the mosaic. You do have a wee bit of piney resin, some nice bright floral aromaticity, and you've also got that little bit of brighter, more zesty grassiness in there. That I would say comes from the citra rather than anything else. But yeah, all in all, the green component is kind of what you'd expect, just not quite as pungent as you might expect from a West Coast double IPA. But the fruity side of things, again, is very nice with this beer. So for me, it's got, there's not so much in the way of grapefruit with this one, but I do get quite a lot of that soft but still oily passion fruit that you'd expect from Citra, from Simcoe. There's the kind of more juicy, mango-y characters that you want from Citra, I would say. So yes, soft, oily passion fruit from the Simcoe, the more juicy mango from the Citra. There's a fair little bit of apricot coming out of this as well. Wee hints of pineapple, if you like. And the more that I smell of it, I'm getting a wee bit of sharper peach, I think, too, which is, yeah, that's going to be from the Citra. But I'm also getting quite a wee bit of the orange from the Mosaic, and a little bit of a slightly gooseberry limey kind of character, which in a West Coast IPA is going to come from the Citra. So different hops can behave in different ways depending on the yeast and the malt backbone that you pair them with. And yeah, Citra is a good example of that. Simcoe as well, when you put it in black IPAs. West Coast and New England IPAs, it's passion fruit. Black IPAs, it's going to give you lots of nice berries and things like that. But yeah, all in all, the aroma of this one is quite nice, and definitely a more bready, biscuity leaning West Coast IPA, but within that end of the spectrum, it's more oily and sweet, I would say. So yeah, all in all, really interesting aroma, this one. I think it's about time that we taste this and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Galaxywatcher, a West Coast double IPA at 8% ABV, Citra, Simcoe and Mosaic in this one, from West Coast Brewing in Mochimune, Shizuoka Prefecture over in Japan. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, kanpai. Ooh, that's really nice, actually. Yeah, I'm waiting to see if the bitterness builds a little bit, but it's certainly, I can feel a little bit of it building now. But in some ways, this does come across as one of these kind of lower IBU, more modern takes on the West Coast IPA. It's not going to blow your head off in terms of its bitterness, but it's certainly showing you a wee bit more into the aftertaste. But that's very, very good. I love my West Coast double IPAs, and that's the thing. These guys don't do it like too often, but you know they're going to deliver when they do. So yeah, just going to say big thumbs up to West Coast Brewing on this one. This is another really, really solid IPA from these guys. I wouldn't expect any less, in all honesty. So yeah, awesome stuff. Very, very good beer. Yeah, I really, really like this one. Yeah, where do we start with this then? As I said earlier, more of a kind of bready, biscuity take on the West Coast IPA, but it gives you more sweetness and caramelly note into the aftertaste. But it really is good. Let's just get the rest of it out and into the glass there. I'm going to enjoy this. I was quite excited when I saw this one. So yeah, backbone of the beer then, middle third of your palate. You get that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust in there. That is the backbone of your beer. I think what I said earlier about this one having a bit of American malt and a bit of European malt is probably correct. It's in some ways it's quite crisp, but in some ways it's a little bit more oily. But yeah, you've got that fresh white bready bread crust in there on the middle third of your palate. Wee touch of a slightly woody character further forward, then you have a little smattering of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker type quality. Above that you get like a slightly sweet wholemeal brown bready character in there, and the kind of oiliness of that brown bready note is what makes me think, yeah, American two-row malt. So you've got that sweet wholemeal brown bready character. Above that you've got a kind of white bready note, which again is quite oily and quite sweet. And yeah, that makes me think, yeah, American two-row malt. If it was European crystal, it would just be a little bit drier than it is, in all honesty. yeah. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together, saw a mosquito down there, I was trying to get it. The way that all of that goes together in the malt base is really nice, but you get a wee bit more dryness and kind of crackery note out of that bread into the aftertaste too. But above the white bready layer, you start to get the brown sugar, so there's a little touch of a kind of toasty, there's a little bit of a more kind of toasty brown sugary note sitting above that there, and then you start to get the more oily brown sugars for sure. So a little bit toasty brown sugar, and then in the centre of your palate there, you've got that more oily, you've got an oily sweet circle in there, which is straight up caramel. And then as you move further out from that, it gives you that more McVitie's digestive biscuity type quality. And again, the toastiness in the biscuit lingers into the aftertaste. But all in all, the way that that pieces together, I think, is really nice. The malty backbone of this beer is really very, very nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else we really need to say about the middle third of your palate in this beer. It's quite, this beer, I will say that, it's quite straightforward and it gives you everything you want from the style, but it's just really well done and you can't ask for much more than that these days. So yeah, really, really nice, this one. It does get sweeter and more oily into the aftertaste as well, I would say, but yeah, the breadiness gives you that wee touch of dryness underneath too. So interesting things going on here. But yeah, let's go to the back third of your palate then. As I've often said, the back third of your palate will give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But remember, sweeter flavours come out further forward, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So yeah, border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You've got the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and then a little bit of a kind of more dry, crisp white bread above that. I am wondering into the aftertaste, there could be a little touch of Pilsner malt in this one, because I'm noticing a bit of white bready kind of crispness at the back of that middle third of my palate. So yeah, it could be a wee touch of Pilsner malt in this one there. But at the base of the back third of your palate, you've got the kind of slightly drier white bready bread crust in there, the bit of Jacob's cream cracker above that, then you've got the more kind of wholemeal brown bready note. Yeah, a little bit of a more kind of wholemeal brown bready character in there, which was a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. And you've got the white bready character above that, which again is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy. And then yeah, sort of sitting on top of all of that, you've got a more Pilsner malty dryness sitting out of this one. Yeah, but on top of that, you can feel there's a little bit of a more toasty, you can feel the kind of toasty brown sugary notes coming out there. So you've got a bit of the toasty brown sugar just sitting on top of that, and maybe a bit of the oily, more oily dry brown sugar creeps over there too. But definitely on top of all of that, on the back third of the palate, you start to get the yeasty side of the beer. So the yeasty side for me, at the centre of that, you get a little bit of a kind of more oily sweet brown bread. Around the edge you get a slightly, around that you get a little bit of a drier brown bready character, then a wee touch of kind of bread crusty, yeah, you get a little touch of that kind of bread crusty note on the very edge of it, and there's maybe a wee bit of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker woody character to this one too. But yeah, definitely the back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But all in all, the malty and yeasty side of this beer, the malty and yeasty side of this beer is really, really nice. So yeah, all in all, it's the malty and yeasty side of this one is pretty good. So let's move on to the hoppy side of things then. Like I said, it's not the most bitter of West Coast IPAs that I've come across, although the bitterness does build into the aftertaste. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, you do get a little touch of that earthiness, which is absolutely attributable to the Mosaic. But as you move further forward, there's a little touch of woodiness in there. And then yeah, as you move further forward from that, you can feel a little bit of piney resin underneath, but mainly it's a more oily, floral aromatic sort of thing. There's a very slightly spicy floral aromatic note as you reach the kind of front corners of your palate too. So yeah, nice kind of floral aromatic spice there, a little bit of oiliness to it as well, but round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is definitely a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. So yeah, I do really like how that pieces together in this particular beer. So yeah, nice floral, nice kind of grassy, zesty note coming out of this beer for sure. So yeah, green component in this one's very good. But let's go to the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things. So yeah, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. Brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, then a wee bit of a more crisp white bread on top of all of that. Base of the front third of your palate, you've got that kind of white bready bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker, the brown bread, and then the white bread above that. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll the way out of the beer. So let's look at those fruity esters now. So yeah, fruity side of this beer is really nice. The more and more that I drink of it, I get more of the orange, tangerine oranges from the Mosaic actually. I'd be curious about the hop ratio of this one, if it's 25, 25, 50 in favour of Mosaic, or if it's just 33, 33, 33. So yeah, as I say, be very curious to see what the brew sheet this one, just to get the ingredient to satisfy my ingredients there type thing. But yeah, at the back of that oily bubble, you can feel there is a little touch of that grapefruity note in there, which is going to come from your Citra, of course. But then as you move further forward, you get the nice, soft, oily, passion fruity notes, mainly Simcoe, but a little bit from Citra. Then yeah, as you reach the kind of middle of the front third of your palate, you can feel the big, juicy mangoes, but still, because it's a West Coast IPA, it's more oily. In the base, you've got the apricot and maybe a little bit of pineapple sitting on top of that. Maybe there's little hints of pear and sultana and stuff. But yeah, as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's all about that big, juicy, oily, tangerine orange from the Mosaic, and potentially there's just a wee bit of a lemony, limey character behind the front tip of the tongue, where you've got the kind of grassy esters as well. So yeah, the way that all of that kind of pieces together is really, really nice in this one. Yeah, as I say, for me, there's nothing surprising about this beer when we think about what style it is, but it's just really, really nicely done, and that's what I would expect from West Coast Brewing. So massive thumbs up from me, this one. I think I actually like this. Could well be my favourite West Coast double that I've tried from these guys, so it'd be a bit of a shame if they don't do this one again, but they do have a reputation of being quite a prolific brewery, which is also a good thing. They're learning as they go, as many breweries are. So yeah, great West Coast double IPA, this one, there's no doubt in my mind about that. But let's round off the review with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, yeah, this beer, the more that I drink of it, it does feel a little bit heavier in a sense. So yeah, I would go with top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied for this one. Carbonation does have a slight degree of crispness to it, but this beer also shows you some oily and slick characteristics, but it's also very clean. In Japan, their beer is supposed to be light and drinkable, and you'll find that very often. A lot of these beers are packed full of flavour, but they still have that Japanese drinkability to them, as I always call it. They're just light and drinkable, and this beer is no exception to that. In terms of the IBU count in this one, it does build the more that you drink out of it. I think this has got to be about 60, 70 IBUs. I would be surprised if it was a big 80, 90 one in a sense, although I have to think at the same time, my sensitive to bitterness has dropped quite a lot over the years, because you get more and more used to drinking these beers. So yeah, I want to say, yeah, I'd say 60, maybe 70 IBUs in this beer. I could always be wrong. Take that with a pinch of salt. You know, IBU count is my weakest point when it comes to beer reviewing. But the malt base, like we said, drier underneath, smooth and slightly oily in the middle, then big oily sweetness on top. Your fruity character coming out of this one is nice and big and oily, leaning toward orange into the aftertaste. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful West Coast IPA. This one, a more bready, biscuity leaning one, but slightly more caramelly within that particular end of the spectrum. But yeah, potentially my favourite West Coast IPA that I've tried from West Coast Brewing, I have to say, which is not something to be taken lightly if you're a big beer nerd like me. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Galaxywatcher, an 8% West Coast double IPA from the wonderful West Coast Brewing in Shizuoka City, Shizuoka Prefecture, near Mount Fuji over in Japan. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from West Coast Brewing as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the very near future. Until then, check out my social media, check out West Coast Brewing social media, and I'll catch you guys again in another review. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and kanpai.